Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today I'm gonna tell you guys how I got a 37 on the ACT, so let's get right into it. Yeah, we only get dubs. Sweetie, get those jokes out of here. Yeah, that's a pretty bad joke. Let me get that out of here. Okay, hey guys, I know you're probably thinking, shoot, I wanted to get a 37 on the ACT. Clickbait. Well, yeah, it was clickbait, so I admit it, but whatever. Welcome. We're going to be talking about the ACT. I did not get a 37, I got a 35, so if you didn't realize that. I did not get a perfect 36, so if you're aiming for a 36, I can't guarantee it. And I honestly can't guarantee anything. Watching a video doesn't guarantee anything. I cannot stress this enough. You have to put in the work, the time, the effort. I understand. Sometimes you get caught up watching YouTube videos about how to do things, how to do it, but you have to get out there and do it, grind, get that 30, whatever you want. Whether it's a 25, whatever score you're trying to get, you got to work for it. So that's my words, and now let's get into it. Okay, we'll start with the English part of the ACT. So the English part is 75 questions, 45 minutes, so it's obviously it's a long part. There's many questions. You got to do it, be moving quick, but these questions aren't too, they don't take too much time to think about, but at the same time, you still have to think about each one. So first things first, in our everyday life, you talk to your friends, you talk to your family, and you know English, you think you know English, and you do honestly know English, but sometimes when we communicate and talk out loud, it comes out differently and it sounds differently, and what sounds correct is not always correct. And that's what you have to realize here. You have to go back to the basics, and that starts with the grammar rules. You have to memorize your grammar rules and know them by heart, know them back and front, know them everything. You got to know your grammar rules. That's just ground. Memorize them, flashcards, do whatever. They're online. You have different worksheets. Just memorize them. And then from there, you can really start focusing on practicing. And the way I practice is I'll take a practice test, an English practice test, and then I'll star every question that I struggled with, every question that I had to debate, that I wasn't completely sure about. I'll star it, and then after that I'll go grade it, see what I got wrong, and then I'll go through the starred questions and the questions that I got wrong, and then I'll have this journal, which I call a wrong answer journal. And basically you'll go through all the questions you struggled with and got wrong. So you'll go through them and you'll write down basically why you got it wrong or why you struggled with it, and what you could have done to get it right, and what rules you needed to know, and what thought process you should have gone through to get the correct answer. And actually write it down, put it down on paper. That'll really help you cement the concepts in your head. And then once you've written it down, go and work out maybe 10 problems on Crack ACT or whatever. Go work out similar problems and cement that grammar rule in your head, and make sure you don't miss another one of those again. And just do that for every single starred question. It might take a while, it might be time consuming, but it will drastically increase your English score. And the final tip I have for you is that is to really get the idea and a good control of your English language, you want to be able to read and absorb good reading material. And so go out or go online, research best ACT books or reading ACT books, and it'll come up with a list of just classic novels. And I think those novels are good. And maybe just pick one and just start reading it. Read it as you prepare throughout your preparation for all the sections of the ACT. And then also you want to maybe pick out a few articles and read them and just get used to proper grammar and how it works in the English language. Those are my reading tips, or English tips, the English section of the ACT. So yeah, get that dub. Okay guys, now we're going to move on to the math section of the ACT, and this is 60 questions, 60 minutes, so 1 minute per question. But at the same time, you have to realize that the questions go from slightly easier to slightly harder, so you have to be aware that you're going faster at the beginning to leave more time for the harder, more challenging problems towards the end of the test. So usually what I would do is around the halfway point, or within about, or actually I should say, you should be at question 30 at around minute 15 to 20. So 15 to 20 minutes in, you want to be halfway through the test. That's how I always time myself, just to make sure I was keeping pace. So now, the first thing for math, you have to memorize your equations. Like there's no substitute for memorizing those equations. So like Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus 9 squared, z squared, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. You have to know it. You can't be thinking about it, questioning yourself. You have to know it. That could be flashcards, just like your grammar rules, but whatever, you have to memorize your equations. And you can find these online, and they'll have formula sheets. Memorize those formulas all the way up through your pre-calculus content, and memorize your equations. No substitute for that. Next, taking practice tests, very similar to what you're doing on the English. You're going to see a lot of this repetitive, sort of practice tests, like how my strategies work, is take your practice tests, star all the ones you struggled with, and also mark all your incorrect answers. Then go through, write down why you got it wrong, and how you should have approached the question better to get it the correct answer. And then go over the correct answer, and then also do an extra 10 problems on that same concept, that same equation, that same whatever, that formula, whatever it is. Just drill it into your head so you won't miss another one. And that's your mathematics tips for the ACT. And now we're going to move on. Okay guys, now we're moving on to the reading section. The reading section. The reason why I'm pausing is because this section was awful. So, okay, my reading section, my experience with the reading section on basically every standardized test that I've taken in my entire life, from first grade to 12th grade. I don't even know if we took, did we even take standardized tests in first grade? I think we did, but whatever. So, reading section. I've always struggled with this, and if you struggle with it, we're in the same boat. I feel you, because literally, I got an 18 on it in 7th grade. I was not good at reading. I wasn't a natural. I didn't magically get I had to put in so much work to eventually get a 36. So I just want to tell you that maybe your section is the math section. You struggle with the math. Whatever it is, you probably have that section that you struggle most with. But maybe you're just going to have to put way more effort into it, because I had to really sit down and focus. Frig, I hate the reading section. But I love you, Stephen King. On to the reading section. 40 questions, 35 minutes. You have to be flying. So, through these passages. 4 passages, 10 questions each. So, basically, my strategy was skim the passages and then move on to the questions. So, what I mean by skim is you want to read it, but you're not reading to maintain that knowledge. You're not reading like a textbook. You're not trying to obtain knowledge. You're just trying to answer some questions. And that's what you're doing. So you're reading it to create a map of the passage, so that when you go to the questions and it asks about why the squirrels do this, you can go back and talk to the passage where it talked about the squirrels. So that's essentially, the freaking squirrels. That's essentially what you have to do. And create a map of the passage. That's what I did. There are other strategies out there, like read the questions first, but you have to test it out on different practice tests and see which one works for you. That's people read at different paces. People do different things differently. Figure what's best for you. That's what I'm telling you. But so essentially, what I did to prepare for it, I picked a book and I read it. This can be anything from Stephen King. It could be Jane Eyre. It could be. I read Wuthering Heights before my ACT, but make sure you read some classic novel, and then also just pick a few articles to read out, just New York Times, anything. And what you want to do is you want to read for the main ideas. Make sure you're not moving too slow. Maybe set a timer while you read. That'll really help you with your speed if you have speed issues. And I always had speed issues, so setting a timer and doing a chapter in a set amount of time is always helpful, or maybe even a little challenging, but it'll push you to get better. And then a same strategy for all the practice tests. Star the ones that you weren't sure about, and mark the ones you got wrong on your practice test, and go through each one and articulate, put it into words why you missed that question. So this is kind of weird for reading, because reading, it's not like a formula, it's not like you made a map. It's sort of evidence-based, but make sure you go through each question and see what evidence you missed out to answer a question. There's evidence for each question, and you have to see why you missed it, why you didn't pick up on that, and see how you can do that better the next time in the next practice test, so you can get that 30-6. So those are my reading tips, and now time to move on to the last section. And now we're on to the science section. This is the last section you're going to be of the multiple choice part of the ACT. So this is sort of to the end. Your brain might be getting a little tired. You've been focused for such a long time, but it's important to push through the science section. This section can sometimes be overwhelming because you turn the page in the test booklet and you see graphs, you see squiggly lines, you see big fat words that mean nothing. And they probably mean nothing to you. They might mean nothing. You might not have never seen that word. You might not see it again in your life. But for this moment in time, you have to take that experiment, take whatever it is, and really try and understand it. And that honestly applies to some of the sections, like the reading section especially. You might not be interested in the content, but just for that 35-minute period, you have to just fake your brain out and be really freaking interested in it. It'll help you go way faster, and it'll really improve your score a lot. So for the science section, you have to learn to read through the BS. There's going to be a lot of stuff thrown at you, and you have to sift through it. Really, don't focus on the big words. You usually don't really need to pay attention too much to the big words, but just be aware that you don't need any of those prior knowledge. Some questions, they're starting to implement a few questions, like a couple more, like I think 4 problems that maybe you learned from your science classes, but you really honestly don't need it. You need any prior knowledge, too much prior knowledge, but it can help you be familiar with it. So the first thing, science is going to be, they're going to ask questions that require you to refer to diagrams or refer to a graph. So what I would do is if it says according to figure A, that's the question, you really circle figure A, make sure you are not looking at figure B, or I think they may do figure 1, 2, I don't know. 1, 2, A, B, C. But if it says figure A, make sure you're looking at figure A. That's one thing I found out on a lot of the questions that I missed. I would be looking at figure B to answer the question, even though it said figure A. Like what? So that's what you have to be aware of. Cut out the simple mistakes. Just go ahead and circle it. And pay attention to words increase, decrease. Those are big key words that really influence the outcome and the final answer. And then the same thing, you want to take your practice tests. You want to go through it, star your questions that you struggled with, mark your incorrect answers, and go through and write down why you missed your question or why you struggled with that question, and see how you can approach that question better to get the correct answer or to get the correct answer faster. And that's just putting it into words will really help you eliminate a lot of those mistakes that you would make previously. So, and then finally, just try and get familiar with science topics. So if that means maybe pick a science magazine and read an article, maybe take a harder science class, or maybe instead of taking a fine arts class or during the school year, take a science class and just keep yourself familiar and broaden your scientific knowledge. That'll help you be familiar with some of the big words, and it'll make the test a lot less intimidating. So now we're going to talk about the writing section. This is an optional section. A lot of colleges that used to require are actually starting to take away that requirement. It's one of those, a lot of people don't know why, you should even care about the writing section, but some colleges still do require it. So I'm going to tell you my tips, but first of all, I was a really bad writer. My ACT writing scores were not exceptional. I got 8 out of 12 basically every time I took it. Every time I took it. Even when I tried. The last time I actually tried and I wrote essays beforehand and practiced, and I still failed. Or not failed. Whatever. So I didn't get what I wanted. So I'm just going to tell you sort of it's just the basics. I think you need to have a thesis statement and you need to have evidence. I think those are the 2 most important things for the question, and really make sure you're supporting your claims that you make, and you're not just leaving claims just out there in the middle of nowhere, and you're not saying something without having something to support it. So really focus on having evidence, and also don't write too little and don't write so much. A lot of times people are just a lot of times in my school, and we took it with our school, we have a school run ACT, people would just fall asleep during the writing section, obviously, but just write a good decent amount to at least give yourself a chance. But at the same time, don't overdo it. You want to be concise, because you never want someone to like, you don't want to, anyone's like listening to the speaker, you don't want them to say, like if they could have conveyed it in like one sentence, you'd rather them just say it in one sentence rather than ramble on for 3 sentences and having to waste your time listening to them. Same thing, people are grading it. They don't want to hear this long, huge page of information that you could have like summed up in like 4 sentences. So be concise, but at the same time, don't write too little. But honestly, take it with a grain of salt. Your boy got an 8 out of 12. So yeah, I don't know what to say about that. So the writing section. So last but not least, I want to talk about sort of some general things. So what book did I use? What you might ask, what book did I use in preparation for the ACT? I only bought one book, and that was the Barron's ACT 36 book. I honestly don't think it's like super helpful. It just has strategies. It's more strategy-based book. It does have a few practice tests and a few practice passages for like certain sections or for all the sections, but it's not like a practice question book. It's primarily a strategy-based book to help you get a 36. I'm not sure. It didn't help me, obviously. Out of 35, I got close. But yes, it's not like a practice test. I don't think it's super essential. The most essential thing is your practice tests. You can find these usually online, and you want to take as many as you can in preparation for the exam. But also, the ACT releases some tests, and you can also find more tests on Reddit. I learned this before the last time I took the ACT, and this can also be helpful. You just search up Reddit, and you can find real exams, recent exams, but on Reddit. I don't know how people get these stuff, and it might be legal, I don't know. I have no idea. I have no knowledge of that. But just search everywhere, and you may be able to find more practice material than you expected. And I think that's important. And practice tests, real practice tests, are the most important part of your testing preparation. And last but not least, you can sit here watch videos all day. I mean, I do it all the time. Not gonna lie, but you got to put that work in, and nothing's going to replace the time and effort to get a good score. And every point that you get, every question you get right is a greater chance you have to get in a good college, or it's more scholarship money, or it's, I know some people, like their parents, I got a friend, parents bought him a truck for getting a certain like ACT score, like a new car. Like if you're my parents, they ain't going to do that for me. But just work and put that effort in, and it will pay off. Maybe not for the first time. Maybe you might have to take the L one time, but you'll bounce back. So, yeah, I just say that. Yeah, good luck, guys. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe, or leave a dislike and unsubscribe. I don't know, whatever you want.